Hi, it's Kathleen, and today I am so happy to have you meet my friend Amanda Byrd. Amanda is a former corporate sales executive turned interfaith minister, executive coach, and hospice chaplain. Yeah, it's a journey. She offers executive coaching and counseling with a spiritual lens, and she's just so cool. Today I'm so excited to just talk with her about her journey. We explore not only taking a pivot to making more meaning, but the experimentation that comes along with finding what's the right fit, letting go of our previous achievement ego. And we share a love of birds and the Merlin Bird app. So happy to have you join us today. Welcome to The Leader Journey, a series within the Rooted Leader podcast, a space for honest stories of transition, courage, and becoming. Here I sit down with folks I've met along my own journey who've stepped away from the structure of corporate life to explore something more meaningful on their own terms. These paths are rarely linear, often messy. My hope is that these conversations help you feel a little less alone, spark some reflection, and maybe even give you the nudge to trust your own journey, wherever it's taking you. Because your next chapter doesn't have to be certain to be worth beginning. Thank you for joining. I'm glad you're here. I'm so happy to have my friend and former classmate Amanda Byrd with us today. Amanda and I met at Northwestern while we were getting our master's in organizational change and learning. And additionally, Amanda got her coaching certification, and I went and did that a little bit later. So I was so happy to reconnect with Amanda, just I think within the year, to talk about where we were and how we both pivoted away from corporate life. So Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So tell me a little bit about who you are now.
Well, I did a major shift, I think most would consider. 2021 had really been talking about leaving corporate for a while, going into coaching, and left my role, which was in corporate sales leadership, leading large sales teams and insurance company, left that to what I thought was going to be doing a coaching practice. And I did that and started coaching. I had been coaching for a couple of years on the side, and it just didn't feel like enough. It felt like I was leaning more and more into meaning, but I still wasn't there. I did experimenting, which I highly recommend. And I went into the startup world and did that for a year and ended up kind of midway through that startup world, really started leaning into what I really wanted to do. What does the second half of my life look like? And that led me into chaplaincy, actually. So I went to the liberal interfaith seminary out in Berkeley, California, and they had just gone online. So lucky me, I was able to take a couple of classes and really just fell in love. And I was in seminary, and then at the same time started taking classes at Fordham, got kind of a half a master's at Fordham and trauma at the same time, and then left the startup and just went into chaplaincy full time in Chicago before we moved.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's a huge shift, right? So going from VP of sales in a very high-paced, tense environment into trauma and being a chaplain. Tell me a little bit about what informed that for you.
Well, I've always been the one to talk about the elephant in the room. If it's a networking event, I didn't love networking events. You would kind of find me in the corner with two other people talking about their childhood. That's just kind of who I was, and it's who I am. So I think part of it is, I think about it now as a returning.
Yes.
Instead of a leaving, if that makes sense.
Oh, I really love that, because it almost just you started listening to your inner self.
Yeah, that to me is what it is. It's that, especially that second half of life is what I call it. And for me, that's not chronological. It's whenever you decide that you're going to start listening to that true self, when kind of ego formation has done its thing, which I think is necessary. And now it's like, okay, now going from ego formation to ego disintegration toward more meaning. What does that mean? That to me is the second half of life.
I love that. And yeah, second half, second adulthood, those sorts of themes come up in readings or different content, and it's nice to hear it and be reminded that we're not just, crazy, that it is a thing.
And feel that, then congratulations. Right? Because you're actually growing up. You're listening. And sometimes it's not fun, but it means you're actually evolving to me. And instead of beating ourselves up, we should go, oh, I'm one of those who's going to grow up this time.
Oh my gosh, Amanda, these conversations always are just so helpful for me. And I know the listeners as well, because so many of us struggle with this. I like to call it the corporate or systemic wiring that almost was survival mode. Initially, we went into this because it was our passion. We had families or careers that allowed us to live lives and do the things we needed to do. And maybe it's the stage once the children start to pivot into their own adulthood that we can then allow ourselves the freedom to look more inward. Yeah. But that unwiring, how was that for you? It's a struggle.
Yes. And I think it's going to be what I'm learning from now until I'm no longer here is, it seems so distant. So that was 4 years ago I left. And sometimes I'm talking to my husband about this, and I can still use my coaching and my old corporate hat, but it still feels very distant just based on the type of work I'm doing more often now. However, I'll catch myself going into an old pattern really quickly.
Yes.
And it's like, oh shit, that's still there. Okay.
Yeah. I know. I was just there yesterday. It was that whole achievement orientation is super hard to get out of instead of leaning into the learning and being thankful for what the lesson was. Oh my gosh, I love this. So tell me more about the work that you are doing. You said you are moving into the chaplain arena. Tell me more about that day to day for you.
Yeah. So I started working really full-time as a chaplain, I guess, 3.5 years ago. And so I work in hospice daily, meeting with patients, hospice families, and really kind of being emotionally supportive for them through their journey at the end of life.
Wow. And I know this is typically later in my questioning, but how do you maintain your well-being and recharge? Because I can imagine the caring nature that you are, that also you need to fill your cup for those things.
Yes. Walks.
Painting bookshelves. Yeah.
Any way to get the energy out. And it's really easy. I found this in coaching, doing the work that I'm doing, that you forget that if you are not resourced, then you cannot be a resource. And so I can feel myself get out of balance. Oh, it's been 3 days since I've meditated. Oh, that's why I'm getting annoyed. Things like that. It's just kind of that reset and giving myself some grace. And
yeah, just recognizing the patterns. Yeah, I think once we name it, it's so much easier to move past it. So, oh, I love that. So tell me, when did you start to realize your old career was no longer suited for you? Did you have little inklings along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I had been speaking openly about it, doing really well in my role, and speaking openly about it to my team, to my boss, to my boss's 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 boss. Everyone knew eventually I would do something else.
I love that.
Yeah. And I picked 2 people, tried to help train them for my role. I mean, I was very transparent about, and I wanted it to be a clean, I wasn't angry. It was just time.
I felt the same way. I wasn't angry. I knew it was time.
Yeah. And I would catch myself not being me. And I also felt myself kind of evolving. And when it's not fair when you have a team of people underneath you, when you start to get more interested and excited to be elsewhere. And when those days started to add up, I knew it was time.
Yeah. I know it was really hard for me to leave my team because they were what kept me doing the work I did. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, it was difficult to leave, but I have this advantage because I went into something so different that became all consuming.
Yeah.
Like going full-time into school and doing this type of work. It was just such a major shift that it was almost like I had to let one identity go before I could go back and grab it again when I was ready.
Yeah, I get that. The identity piece is so critical because I think that is something for me that I've struggled with. One foot was always still in the biotech space and one was in the coaching space. I felt more pulled by one, but the other was such an identity I didn't want to leave behind. And yeah, it's a little bit easier now that I've done that. So I love that you had a very clear cut because you went full time into the specific training program. Okay. What called you to chaplain work versus the coaching? Because I can imagine it's pulling from similar strengths.
Yes. I think it was something that I knew that I wanted to talk about something bigger. And when I say spirituality, I imagine the biggest definition of spirituality you can think of. That's kind of how I think about it, whether it's art or nature or the universe or energy, whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't care. Or religion or faith or prayer, whatever.
Right. All of the above.
But what I was realizing when I was working, especially with a lot of women in finance, because that's where I was, and when I was doing coaching, is that it was actually, these were spiritual issues. And it was this need for something bigger. I know it's there. And I wanted to be able to talk about those things. Yeah. And that's, I think, I was always a little woo-woo. I always wanted to talk about the big stuff. But now to even take it to the second to say, you know, the first time I meet a patient, I say, do you have any fears? Is there anything that you're worried about that you can't talk to anyone else about?
Oh my gosh.
I would love to be able to meet people in bars that way. I would have so more friends.
Right. Hi, I'm Amanda. Do you have any fears? Like,
can we just talk about our stuff we are all the time?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is why I love you. I can do the same thing. Like, tell me a little bit more about that. Yeah. but still how comforting, right? To have you and the energy you bring come to someone at this time of their life.
Yeah, I love that work. I loved my work in the ER in downtown Chicago, which was more crisis.
Yeah.
It has helped me to be able to understand that being human is hard.
Oh my gosh, it is hard.
And we are not very good at it.
Oh my goodness. I know. Let's bring more humanity into the world. I love it. Yes, we're not very good at it. We're not taught to be good at it. Mm-hmm. We don't have good examples around us on the day-to-day. I find it so hard for us, especially in that former life, to even pick our heads up enough to reflect on our own selves, let alone, you know, the greater good. So, okay. I love that so much. And so now, you know, this is your thing?
I don't know.
For now.
Yeah. I don't, you know, what's really interesting is the best thing about being a chaplain is having now chaplain friends. And, right. So you have counselors all around you who talk about the big stuff, no small talk all the time. If you find that network of friends, which is amazing. And to me, it's just like, and evolving, like this is a role that I currently have. I'll never not be a fully spiritual person, you know, that wants to take care of other humans and be with them on their journey. But how it's defined as a role, I don't know. I'm 50, so I feel like I've got quite a few more years to wear different hats or other roles. It's just the now. I don't think about it. Yeah, like that.
It's not a destination. Yeah, I love that. I feel that too. I feel like just being a lifelong learner and just evolving has been such a gift for the last 3 years. Yeah, but it's also reminding yourself it's okay to do that is hard. Yeah.
And the privilege that I have to be able to do that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. I have healthcare because my husband has healthcare. Otherwise I know people don't have the opportunity to do some of these things because of those needs. Yeah.
And I had a really good job and had savings and had
exactly
things that make it not apologizing. We worked really hard for them, but also like understanding those type of things that make a difference.
You know, thank you for saying that. I find myself having to sort of justify, well, I worked 30 years. I saved the 401k. I saved my kids' education as a way to defend my choice. But I did work hard. You did work hard. We did have those moments where we were frenetic and hyper-focused, raising children, working. And so it is a blessing, but it's also well-earned. So I'm so proud that you were able to take your journey and make that choice for you. Was there any doubt or fear that you struggled with when you initially pivoted away?
It'd be easier to list the lack of, the things I wasn't afraid of.
That's true. How about a couple of like the ones you were?
The reality is the financial piece. I mean, I make 10% of what I used to make.
Oh my goodness. Yes. So, like totally. It's such a, that's ego.
I mean, that is a real thing. And so I have to say no to my adult children sometimes for the first time ever about things. Those are all realities. That ego of not being able to fix stuff all the time. I'm in a role right now where I can really fix nothing and just have to be there for it and sit with all of it. And that's really difficult sometimes to not be the fixer.
Fixer. Man, I know a lot of the listeners are going to resonate with that. I mean, so much of our identity is fixer.
Yeah. And then, so I'll say those, fears and am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I nice enough? When you start talking about doing this type of work.
Yes. Well, I know, I get it, right?
Yeah. All the normal conditioning stuff, but then all of those things are still there. None of those fears are gone. There are times that I still think I should just do this on the side and go back and get a corporate role and make my money again and just breathe for a second. And, all those things I think that's normal because that's how growth works, right? It's like there and back and it's cyclical.
Let's normalize it, right? I actually, you can't see it. I'm watering up a little bit because it, like you said, it does come back. It goes away for a while. It comes back. Yeah. Wow. Any advice for folks how best to move through it? I mean, recognizing its growth and its normal is helpful.
Find people who can sit in it with you, who don't try to fix it. I love a good reframe, but sometimes there's just no reframing. And someone who can just sit in the muck and say, I know this is really scary, but I'm here. And I think we're missing that a lot. We're missing that community of people who just support us and can sit in the muck.
Yeah, because you don't see them out there. I mean, even if they're there, they're not announcing it, right? It's too vulnerable. And that's, again, one of the reasons I wanted this to share our stories, that it's not easy, but you're not alone. And it's not a switch that you just flip and you're fine. It's an undoing and a recreating. I don't know the words, but yeah. Okay, I love that. Who has been your biggest inspiration?
Personally, I would say it is my clinical instructor on the chaplaincy side. She's in her 70s. She's talk about identities and roles. She's had them, so many of them. And she works and she's taken classes and this on the side. She is a lifelong learner. And for me, that dedication to continue to learn and to serve, until you can't.
Yeah. I mean, that's what she was meant to do.
And so I love that about her. And she just inspires me that I'm not out of time.
Oh, I love it. And somebody that you can personify what you're feeling and wanting. You see it. I see it in different folks. So I'm still searching because I feel like I'm still an oddball, but I have hope for myself. I love that. What advice would you give your younger self? Would you have done anything differently, you think?
That the journey is not linear.
Yes.
And I try to instill that in my kids who are in their 20s. Like that's okay. It's not supposed to. We have created a society where if you are not moving like this, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
And I think that's changing. I do believe that's changing.
Yeah. And we see so much more of that than our adult kids. I also have kids in their 20s, and seeing them all take slightly different paths and helping them be reassured that that's okay when they don't see it necessarily in their peers directly yet. I'm trying to see that as our paths are informing them a little bit, that we can take a different path and it's okay.
Yes, they get to actually see it.
And the discomfort and the failure, we were talking about experimentation, and I'm talking with another one of my friends who's in this space, and not everything works. And so you're like, okay, what do I learn from this? And what do I pivot and take away to serve and help others? I think I love that you focused on that, because I think that's my ultimate goal as well, is how do I take what I've learned in this life to serve and help others so that they might struggle less, talk nicer to themselves, give themselves more compassion. When you're shaking your head, so tell me, does that resonate with some of the conversations you're having with folks who are end of life?
Yes, whenever anything bad happens, but especially when you have the opportunity, we're all, I call it in the waiting room. We're all in the waiting room, but some of us have a doctor telling us we are. And when you have that, we learned at Northwestern all about narrative making. And I see it every single day. And that to me is kind of what I call myself a story catcher, that ability to just listen and let them create the story and memories and lessons and regrets, creating that narrative they need to be able to move forward. And we all do that every day, but it's a special kind of narrative that you're creating to where you can really die without fear.
So that's your goal, is to help remove that fear.
Not remove the fear, sit with it.
Sit with it. Okay.
Yeah, that's the lack of fixing. It's some will be afraid and some won't, and that's part of it. But it's that ability to say, is there anything you need to say or anything you need someone else to hear to create the story, to build the story that you need to be at peace?
Wow. That's beautiful. Yeah. What's the best part of this shift for you now that you've made it in I know it's not over, but currently, what is the best part for you?
Yeah, it feels very true every single day.
Can you say more about that if you don't mind?
Yeah, I said it and to someone the other day, I'm like, oh my God, finally, I've been journaling about this for months. And I said it out loud, that there are parts about the job I don't like.
Okay.
Right? Because some of it is a job, but the work itself, it is always true.
Yeah. That aligns with your soul.
And there's no room for, like, if I'm watching The Price is Right with someone living with dementia who's lonely, then it's not watching The Price is Right. It's filling someone else's need for companionship, if that makes sense. Like there's a way to create meaning and a trueness. Mm-hmm. And there are just not a lot of jobs like that or roles like that, which is one of the things I wanted to make sure too, that I talk about people I coach or people who ask me questions or want to meet with me and say, oh, I want to do something that's meaningful and I want to just quit my job and go, I tell them all the things that are really hard, but also I don't think we do enough like experimenting, volunteering.
Exactly.
You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to.
That's right.
It took me years and years to be able to do that. And we need more people out in the world just trying to do something little. And that in itself brings enough meaning that you may realize you don't need to quit your job.
I probably could have found a way to do it, but I didn't. I didn't. And it was good for me to say, okay, I think I'm ready to take the lead. But there are other ways I could have experimented to say, could I have held both? Did it have to be one or the other? It would have eventually still happened. So, okay. But I love that. Experiment with what really brings you energy and fills your cup. Yeah. Love that. What brings you joy besides meditation and walks? I know you did move, so you're by the beach now.
I am by the beach. I love Chicago Beach, but the real beach now.
Yes, the salty beach.
Yeah, so we live on Tybee Island, a little island off the coast near Savannah, Georgia. And I would say that is what brings me joy now is nature. I love Chicago. I love the city. It's where we raise our kids and I miss it, but nature. Yeah. I'm staring out at trees and the marsh right now. I'll walk on the beach later today and it just heals me.
Rejuvenating. Yeah, it feels, absolutely. I find a calling back to nature as well, and the solitude and the beauty and the evolution of, and of course it's Chicago springtime for a few days and then yeah. Well, this is so lovely. When we first started, before we recorded, we said we wanted to give the good, the bad, and the ugly about this phase. It's not glamorous, but it is where you're meant to be now. One of the books I love is A Call to Further Becoming. It's based on research of folks in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and sort of the elements of moving into the second adulthood. Yeah, anything else you wanted to share with the audience?
No, I think that is that I love what you're doing with the normalization. It's so important to at least not, like you said, not feel crazy. And I say more than just normal. It might not actually be normal in our society today, which why it feels crazy. Is that
totally
so many people who will die not growing up. And that's okay. That was their journey. But you can't feel like the crazy one because you want to actually enter that second half of life this time around.
I love it. So I do have to, you just gave me an idea. How crazy did people think you were when you decided to leave a very lucrative career for this phase?
I have no idea what this was behind my back. All I have is stories of what I think they said. I think no one was really surprised.
Okay.
Because I'm a master water dropper. So they still think I'm crazy. Yeah. And I don't have as many of those relationships because I think of what I said earlier, and that's part of it too. And we have this fear of losing relationships. And that's a true piece of it. When you take your own path, you will need to let go of some relationships and create new ones.
Yeah, you lose people. You really do. Thank you for sharing that, because that is a loss that I didn't expect and one I miss. Mm-hmm. But as you said, I have so many in my orbit now, like you and others, where we do find comfort in knowing that our paths are different. And because we were among those who might not ever take a separate path, we did feel like oddballs a bit, but maybe we're not. Maybe we're just trendsetters. There we go. Okay, let's go. I know the first answer to mountains or beach, lightning round question.
Beach.
Okay. And we know it's a salty beach. So
yes.
But we totally get it. Like I grew up in Michigan sand dunes. So, but okay. What's your go-to beverage in the morning?
Coffee.
Okay. Black coffee?
Coffee with heavy cream. Half and half on occasion, but I've decided the hell with it. I want the real thing. I want it to be like white.
Love it. I love it. I love it. What's a non-negotiable for you now? And this is tough because you're a mom and something just for you.
Fiction.
Ooh.
I love to read. I read a crazy amount. And I had for like a decade just been reading nonfiction, like my entire bookshelves, like only on vacation would I allow myself. And
it's the MSLOC in us.
I know. And now I'm like, no, I can be reading 3 nonfiction books, but I need to have a fiction book that I allow myself to read when I just need to escape and learn.
Any favorite? I'm always looking for a good excuse.
The Correspondent. Have you read that?
No, I heard that's very, very good.
Delightful. Highly recommend.
I listened to Crying in H Mart and it was amazing. I know it's old, but it was really, really good. What is your go-to reset ritual? I think you already mentioned this, but
meditation and walking.
Okay. Do you do both at the same time? Like meditative, like do you like listen to meditation while you're like content when you're, or just in nature sounds?
Yeah, nature sounds, birds here,
Birds,
and
birds.
yeah.
I hope the listeners can hear a few birds. I have my window open because the birds are
Oh.
coming and migrating. So I have a few bird calls here. Yeah. Do you use the Merlin app? I love it.
A friend of mine that I was in class with at Fordham, she told me about that. She uses it. I have not used.
It is so much fun. Do it. It's so much fun. And I like to think of it as it helps them track the migration of birds, because when you hear a bird, you can say, this is in my area, and it helps them. And I'm trying to think it. Oh gosh, it's Cornell. So I like to think of it as science and also fun. Okay. And then complete this sentence. And I think you did this too. Now my work feels like.
I think true.
True. Thank you so much for being with me today and our listeners, and sharing your journey and the true part of the journey and all the ups and downs. And I just so appreciate you, Amanda. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was lovely to be here.
Well, I can tell that's one I'm going to have on repeat quite often whenever I go through my cycles of doubt. I hope you found things that resonated with you, maybe a little bit of fun, and the idea that this journey is not linear and that the next thing you do still might not be your last. So thanks for joining. And as always, stay rooted in your empathy, authenticity, and a little bit of courage.